Two men start the same job on the same Monday. Same agency, same truck, same rate. You are a repo man. You are paid per vehicle. You find the car, you take it back, you get the fee. 14 months later, he is out of the business. You are still working nights. You are the one who stays. You think this job is about cars. It is not. It is about a number that stays behind after the car is gone. One question runs under every night of it. When the car is gone, who actually pays? You start finding the answer at 4:10 in the morning. A driveway, a gray sedan. There is a child seat in the back. Level 1, the first night. You are 29. The license took 6 weeks and a background check. The truck is not yours. The company owns it. You owe them fuel. On the dash, there is a laptop. On the roof, there are 4 cameras. The cameras read plates. Every plate you drive past. All night. A 4-camera kit runs about $15,000. It pays for itself in cars. One network holds billions of plate photographs. Its cameras ride in about 1,800 vehicles. You are not looking for anybody. You are driving, and the laptop is looking. That is the first thing nobody tells you. Most of this work is not a chase. It is a database. Your first assignment is a white pickup, 3 years old, an apartment lot on the east side. You get there at 11 at night. You do a drive-by first. You do not stop. You read the plate and keep going. It is there. That is the whole job most nights. Confirming that a thing is where the file says. You come back at 2 in the morning. You back in. You lift the front wheels. 90 seconds from stop to rolling. Maybe less. Nobody comes out. Nobody shouts. A dog barks 2 buildings over. You feel something you were not expecting. And it is not guilt. It is relief. The other thing comes an hour later. In the yard, filling out the condition report. There is a work jacket on the passenger seat, a phone charger, half a coffee. Somebody's morning has already changed, and they are asleep through it. Your fee for that pickup is a few $100s. Agencies are paid a flat fee per recovery, roughly $200 to $500 a car. That range has not moved in decades. Your cut is a share of it. Average pay in this job in 2026 runs about $43,000 a year, around $21 an hour. The top of the field sits near $64,000. So this is not a gold rush. It is piecework, done in the dark. Marcus starts the same Monday. He is better at the driving than you are. He is worse at the waiting. That turns out to matter more. And there is one rule under all of it that you have not felt yet. Level 2. The list. Understand who is actually asking. You do not work for a bank. You have never spoken to a lender. The order comes down a chain, and the chain has layers. At the top is the lender, the bank or the finance arm that holds the loan. Under that, more and more often, sits a forwarder. A forwarder is a management company. It takes the lender's assignments and hands them out to agencies like yours. In 2018, forwarders handled 31% of completed repossessions at the lender's one federal review studied. By the end of 2022, it was 66%. It peaked at 69%. Each layer takes a piece. The bottom layer is you, in a truck, at midnight. And that same review found something else. Fees charged to the borrower were higher when a forwarder was in the chain. So when does a car land on your list? Usually not the first missed payment. Usually not the second. Most lenders move somewhere between 60 and 90 days past due. Some contracts say you are in default 1 day late. Most lenders do not act that fast. A number of states require a written notice first, with 10 to 20 days to catch up. By the time an address reaches your laptop, months have already happened in somebody's life. You never learn what happened. You get a make, a model, a plate, and an address. Here is what the paperwork does not show. Only some of these assignments ever end in a car. Before 2020, the lenders in that data completed about 41% of assignments in an average month. By September 2022, it was 27%. Roughly 3 out of 4 go nowhere. The car has moved. The address is old. Somebody caught up. Somebody is parking it somewhere else. For the ones that do close, the average time from assignment to recovery ran about 16 to 23 days. 2 or 3 weeks of driving past addresses for one fee. Now the rule. One sentence, and it decides your whole year. You are paid for the recovery, not for the search. No car, no money. That is the model, and in this industry, it is normal. You can spend 11 nights on a vehicle. If you never put it on the hook, you worked 11 nights for nothing. Nobody hid that from you. It is in the agreement you signed. The arithmetic of your life gets done by other people. You see it last. Marcus counts differently than you do. He counts the nights he lost. You count the cars. That difference ends his career and keeps yours. But there is a second rule, and it is not about money. Level 3, the line. There is a line in this job, and it is written into the law. Under the Uniform Commercial Code, a lender can take the collateral without going to court. No judge, no hearing, no sheriff at the door. The name for it is self-help, and it carries exactly one condition. It has to happen without a breach of the peace. That is the whole limit. 4 words holding up an entire trade. No statute defines it cleanly. Courts decide it afterward, case by case. What is settled is this. You cannot use force. You cannot threaten anyone. You cannot pretend to be someone else to get to the vehicle. You cannot cut a lock. You cannot open a closed garage. An open driveway is generally allowed. A locked building is not. And if the owner comes out and objects clearly while you are working, you stop. You stop even with the hook already under the car. You stop and you leave empty. That is the whole job compressed into one motion, because stopping costs you the fee. The rule that protects the person in the doorway gets paid for out of your night. You learn to work in the hours before anyone is awake, not for drama, because it is quieter. Quiet is not a style in this trade. Quiet is compliance. You get it wrong once, not badly, once. A sedan in a shared lot at midnight. A man comes out in a t-shirt. He is not angry yet. He is confused. He asks what you are doing to his car, and you keep working 4 or 5 seconds longer than you should have. He puts a hand on the truck. Then his voice changes. You set the car down. You give him the agency's number. You go. In the cab, your hands are not steady. Nobody was hurt. Nothing happened. But you understood something you cannot unlearn. The line is not a legal concept. The line is a person in a parking lot, in a t-shirt, at midnight. This is not a safe trade either. Agents get shot at. Some have been killed doing it. That is not a thing you say at dinner, so you stop saying much at all. You start taking the far corner of the lot. You start leaving the engine running. You stop working with the window down. Marcus quits nights around then. He does not explain. You do not ask. 3 weeks later, a small house with the porch light on, and there is something in the back seat of the car in the driveway. Level 4, the child seat. 4:10 in the morning, October, a gray sedan, 8 years old. The plate matches. The account is far enough behind that it reached you. The porch light is on. It has been on all night. People leave them on. You walk the car first. You always walk it first. Damage, tires, anything you will have to write down. Through the rear window, you see it. A child seat, still buckled, straps twisted the way they get. There is a small blanket folded on the seat beside it. Nothing in the rules changed. Everything about the next 10 minutes did. Here is what actually happens, because this part is procedure. Personal property in the car is not collateral. The loan is on the vehicle, not on what is inside it. Most states require that property to be inventoried and made available to the owner. A child seat is loose property. It goes back to the family. You know this. You will do it correctly. You will write down every item in the car. None of that touches what you are feeling on a driveway at 4:10 in the morning. You do the job. You have to be honest about why. If you drive away, somebody else gets dispatched by Thursday. The car reaches the same yard either way. You're not doing it changes exactly one thing, and that is your fee. That is the most uncomfortable true sentence in this whole trade. So you take the seat out first. You set it on the porch, upright, straps folded, where it will be found. Then you lift the front wheels and you go. Nobody comes out. Nobody sees you. Somehow, that is worse. You drive 8 minutes and pull over and sit with the engine running. In about 2 hours, behind you, a woman is going to open a door. She will not call the police right away. A stolen car and a repossessed car look the same for 10 minutes. Then she will call the number on the notice, and somebody in a call center will read her a balance. She will get to work by bus, or she will not get to work. You will be paid a few $100s for that. You do not quit. That has to be said plainly. You go home. You sleep badly. You take another assignment on Tuesday. Marcus quits at 14 months. Not after a bad night, after a slow month. He tells you why, and the reason is smaller than you expect. He says he cannot keep doing a job where trying hard and getting nothing are the same thing. You still think this story ends at the yard. It does not. The gray sedan has one more trip to make, and that is where the money actually is. Level 5. The lot. The car does not become the bank's problem. It becomes inventory. First, it sits in a storage yard. Storage costs money, and that cost gets passed along. There is a window here, and it is real. The borrower can get the car back. It is called redemption. Pay what is owed plus the costs, and it comes home. In that federal data, about 30% of completed repossessions were redeemed in late 2022. Before 2020, the figure ran between roughly 22 and 29%. Most people do not get the car back. A meaningful number do. Both are true. The rest go to auction. Wholesale, not retail. A lender is generally required to sell in a commercially reasonable way. For most of them, that means a wholesale lane. A dealer buys it there and sells it again at retail, with a margin. Repossessed cars at auction move well under retail. Reported discounts run around 15 to 30% below private party value. And the car has been sitting. Skipped maintenance, sometimes damage. Cars get treated badly in the last months of a loan going wrong. Then the arithmetic runs, and the order of it is the entire story. The sale proceeds do not go to the loan first. They go to the costs first. Retaking the vehicle, holding it, getting it ready, selling it. Your fee lives in that line. So does the tow. So does the storage. Disposal fees alone averaged roughly $300 to $367 a car in that data, depending on the borrower's credit tier. Only what survives all of that ever touches the debt. If money is left over after the debt is covered, it goes back to the borrower. That does happen. And when the money runs out before the debt does, the difference has a name. But you understand something now that you did not understand on your first night. The car was never the point. The car was a way to turn a problem into a number. And the number does not leave when the car does. Level 6. The number that stays. It is called a deficiency balance. Loan balance plus every cost of taking and selling the car, minus whatever the auction paid. Whatever is still open, the borrower still owes. The car is gone, and the debt is not. Both at the same time. How often does that happen? This is the figure to hold on to. Federal regulators looked at about 905,000 disposals across 9 large lenders. 94% of them ended with a deficiency balance. By December 2022, it was 95%. That is not an edge case. That is the ordinary outcome. And the size of it. In December 2022, the average deficiency balance was about $11,340. The median sat around $11,620. So a person loses the car and the way to get to work and wakes up owing about $11,000 for a car that is gone. There is a reason this keeps getting heavier. People are borrowing more than the car is worth from the first day. In the first quarter of 2026, 30.9% of trade-ins toward a new car carried negative equity. The average underwater trade-in owed $7,183 more than the vehicle was worth. That old gap gets rolled into the new loan and driven off the lot. The average new car payment hit a record $770 a month in early 2026. Used, $531. A loan that starts underwater ends underwater. An auction cannot close a gap that was built in at signing. And there are more of these nights than there used to be. About 1.73 million vehicles were repossessed in 2024, the highest since 2009. In January 2026, the share of subprime borrowers 60 days or more behind on a car loan reached 6.90%. That is the highest in a series going back to 1994. For prime borrowers, the same measure was 0.4%. So this is not everyone. It is one specific part of the country, and it is underwater. Now stand back and look at what you have been standing inside. The zoom out. Follow the money out of that gray sedan. The lender holds the loan. It also holds the car as collateral. It is covered from both sides. The car sells. The costs come out first, and every one of those costs is charged to the borrower. Then the shortfall stays with a person who is now taking the bus. That balance can go to collections. It can be reported to the credit bureaus. It can be sold to somebody else. So the loan does not end. It changes shape. Look at the chain again from the top. The lender is covered. The forwarder is paid for the assignment. The auction is paid on the sale. The dealer buys low. Every layer is paid in something that is not risk, except two people, the one whose car it was, and you, in the truck, who only gets paid if you close it. Every layer above you handles the problem. Only the last two carry it. Marcus worked that out before you did. He did not leave the industry. He moved one layer up. He runs dispatch for a forwarder now. He is paid for the assignment, not the recovery. Same cars, same nights. He just stopped being the one who has to touch them. And here is the answer to the question from the first minute. When the car is gone, who actually pays? Not the lender. The lender was covered before you ever got the address. The person pays. They pay twice. Once with the car, and then again with the difference between what it sold for and what they owed. The system never needed the car to be worth the loan. That gap is not a failure in the machine. It is how the machine is built. It does not lose. It only decides who is holding the difference. Think back to the first night. The white pickup. The 4 cameras on the roof. They were reading every plate on a street where almost nobody was behind on anything. You thought you were looking for one vehicle. You were not. They were mapping where everything sits, all the time. So when a number slips, the address is already known. You were never a hunter. You were the last mile of a database. Somewhere tonight, a truck is idling with its lights off. A laptop is reading plates nobody is looking for yet. A porch light is on, the way porch lights are. And in a house, someone is asleep, current on everything except one thing, and tomorrow is day 71. They still think the car in the driveway is theirs. For one more night, in every way that matters, it is. You take the car. You never take the debt. That part was never yours to carry, and it is not theirs to put down. Watch this next if you want to know who calls about the $11,000 after the car is already gone.